Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is Matt with Michigan Boneheads Outdoors, and hopefully you're having a wonderful day so far. On this week's episode, guys, we're going to be diving into a major topic here, okay? How to hunt the late season, especially when you have a tag still burning in your pocket like this guy here. So, like I said, guys, that's on this week's episode. Hopefully some of these tips and tricks will help you get that buck on the ground late season. So, welcome back to the channel, guys, and let's just get right into it. So, here we go. I mean, to be honest, guys, I mean, me and the Pops there, we're usually tagged out around this time anyways. But don't get me wrong, we had our fair share of late season hunts, okay? And the way that we were able to get it done on late season hunts is that we were able to do this, is find the biggest available food sources in your area, okay? No matter what it is, no matter if it's standing corn, uh, standing soybeans, wheat fields, I mean, anything like that, guys, that is an awesome place to find not just deer, but to actually find some nice bucks. Okay, what they're doing is they're trying to get fat and they're trying to, feed themselves to get ready for the winter. Okay, um, deer are a slave to their stomach. Okay, it is not uncommon for a deer to walk a mile and a half to a really nice food source. Okay, if you really do clock it, guys, for us humans, you know, a mile is really won't take that long to walk, and deer can do it just as fast and it's just as quick, and it's way 10 times easier for them than for us. But if you actually do clock it, as humans, it only takes us maybe like 15-20 minutes to walk a mile. You know, deer would do the same thing. Deer will actually find that big time food source, stay there for 5 to 7 hours, 8 hours, no matter how long they want to stay for, and then they'll backtrack back to bed. And that is the number one, like, just tip, is to go around. What we usually do, guys, is we drive around, see if Farmer Johnson's got standing corn or standing beans, or see if the wheat fields are nice or whatever it may be, and we will clock it. Like I said, guys, even if you're on public, drive around. Yeah, this guy is on private property, but what's on his private property? Because that is a deer bag day. Okay. And if you can get on the backside or however you want to be able to get into cutting those deer off to get to that food source, that's a major tip too. Like I said, guys, do everything lawfully. Don't trespass on anybody's property. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is try to find the best food source in your area and find the best ways to cut them off to get to that food source. Okay. Um, in my personal opinion, I kind of like standing corn a lot better. It's high in carb. I mean, if we eat abundance amount of carbs, what do? We get fat, right? So that's what those deer are trying to do at that particular time frame. They're trying to put on as much fat as possible before the winter hits. Okay, and sometimes the winter has already hit. So definitely look for that. If you have soybeans, if you're able to hunt during on standing soybeans, that's a high protein source right there. That is great. Okay, if deer need that just as well as us. Okay, if they actually have their protein intake up, that way their body doesn't eat muscle. Okay, it's just like us, guys. If we are able to keep our protein intake on a high level, then we won't be losing muscle. Therefore, they won't be shrinking in body size, and then Lord knows what Mother Nature can do to them. So definitely look for a high carb and a high protein food source. And like I said, guys, if there's any way that you can cut them off to that food source, that is just going to be an awesome spot to hunt. Another reason why the late season is so magical, guys, and like I said, if you can endure the weather, is a lot of times these deer come back home. Okay, what happened in early season and pre-rut and rut, what are they doing? They just disperse and they're covering just the amount of ground that they possibly can. But once that late season kind of starts hitting, they start coming back home. And another cool thing about that too is now they're patternable again. You can actually start getting a game plan on these deer like how you did preseason. Okay, or how you did the first week or two during bow season. That's an awesome time to, like I said, to pattern these bucks again. You know, like I said, find the food source, but it's also too that you are able to pattern these deer will come in at this time and on this thing, and they're coming out on this corner, blah blah blah. They're patternable again, and they're coming home. Then that should give you reassurance that your property or your spot at that particular time holds deer and holds bucks. I mean, how exciting is that? That this spot that you picked out, even though, yeah, it's not working at the time frame that you want it to work, but this time frame works. So you learn that that spot or your piece of property can be really, really on fire at that particular time. And it's like I said, it's awesome, and it's exciting to know that. But like I said, if you can get to a food source and hunt that food source, you're going to be watching that there's going to be a lot of bucks that are going to be honing into your property or into your spot. And like I said, you're able to pattern them again. And just before you know it, guys, we're kind of doing, like I said, the preseason funness, I should say, when it comes to preseason scouting. And that first week of season is just awesome too, because like I said, they're back pattern. So definitely take advantage of that. Don't be afraid to go out there and to try to get it done and look around your property or look around your spots. And it's kind of like scouting all over again. Find those little hidden pockets where they're at. And with the snow, I mean, it's going to be 10 times easier because of trails. You know, it's going to be so much easier to backtrack deer. It's not even funny. It'll take you those things will take you right to his bedroom, or they'll find out where your doe bedding spots are at, or whatever it may be. It's an awesome time to get it done, but also to learn your property and to learn the spots that you have during late season. Another piece of information, guys, that is going to help you out, especially if you're going to be on those food sources, if you find the standing corn and the soybeans and the wheat fields, is take a little bit of precaution. Okay, don't blow these fields out. Okay, what's going to happen is that these deer are going to start patterning you again. All right, if you blow out a field, especially a high food source field, you're going to see as the season goes longer, the less deer you're going to have. It ain't because they're not in your area. It's because they pattern you on the time that you are going to be walking in or out. So guess what they're doing? They're reverting back. They're waiting another 30, 40 minutes to go to that field that is and actually walk on out, because they know that last time, once I did this before, something scared me. There was danger over here. So if you keep on blowing out, like I said, a major food source, you're going to see that time frame of those deer just keep on getting later and later and later and later. Okay, so be careful when you go to these food sources. Go into those food sources kind of downwind. All right, try to sneak into them as quietly as you possibly can. Have an access plan. Okay, an access and an exit plan. Try to slip in just like a ghost and leave as a ghost as well. Just be careful. Okay, because like I said, if you don't blow those food sources out, that is awesome, and they're just going to just hold deer all the time. All right, but if you keep on going out in and out of your stand and you're blowing deer out of there, they're, like I said, they're definitely going to be cautious on the movement that they're doing. Okay, and they are just going to be, like I said, just keep getting later and later and later of coming out. So definitely have an access plan, definitely have an exit plan, and like I said, just come downwind of any type of food source that you possibly can. Okay, make sure that there's nothing into that food source before, if you climb up a tree stand or in a tower blind or whatever it may be, kind of glass around and kind of make sure that there's nothing, waiting on the hinges of those edges, because that's what a lot of deer kind of do, is that they hit those edges, and they just glass. They glass for quite a while, and then they walk on out. So definitely, like I said, Make sure you have a good entry and access plan, and definitely make sure that you walk in downwind. Now I know a lot of you are probably going to be questioning this. It's like, okay, Matt, well, what would happen if I don't have a awesome food spot? You know, what if I don't have this or don't have that? Use what Mother Nature has given you, and that is the snow. Okay, the snow will tell you the story and tell you where they're going in and out, or tell you where they're crossing at. You know, use your woodsmanship, read the sign. Okay, and sometimes you can backtrack deer to just possible bedding areas. You know, be careful. You don't want to walk into the bedding areas, but just backtrack them as far as you possibly can. You know, I backtracked before a couple of years back. All these trails, right, converged into one trail, and it dipped down into like a thicket swamp in the snow. I was able to see the trails in the snow converge to one, and then it dipped down into this swamp. And guess what? Hung a tree stand right where all them trails converged, and we got a couple doe down. You know, we've seen some bucks in there, but it was just so thick to where we had 30 sixes. I just wasn't comfortable doing it. But we were able to get me and the pops. They were able to get some does down and get some freezer queens in the freezer. So definitely, what I would do is, like I said, is look for use your woodsmanship and find where these trails converge into one. You know, especially if it's like on a point, like I said, or on a thick, brushy tamarack swamp or whatever it may be. Use what Mother Nature has given you and follow the sign and know how to read sign. But like I said, also follow the sign, backtrack it, and bro, you'll be golden. Okay, like I said, if you don't have a food source, you know that's a major piece. What I would do, um, especially on private public property, guys. You know, just drive around. You know, see where cut these trails off. You know, I'm sounding like a broken record, but the snow will tell you where the movement is at, and then just set up accordingly to that. You know, you're going to see 30 tracks going back and forth on the road. Well, go see what's going on in there. You know, go see what's going on both sides, because obviously there's something going on here because the deer are here. You know, and you're going to have to put in the work a little bit, but definitely go in and investigate. You know, I like to do just one time sits. You know, if I'm finding a whole bunch of tracks that are cut in the road, or it seems like this trail is just completely beat, I'll sit right there. I'll put in an evening hunt or a morning hunt and see what's going on, because like I said, they're there for a reason. So definitely use your woodsmanship and definitely backtrack a whole bunch of sign and see where it can lead you. And there's other piece of information, guys, that can help you during the late season, and I think a lot of people don't understand that it actually can work, is rut tactics. Rut tactics still work. Rattling still works. Grunting still works. You know, there's still a couple more estrus does available. Okay. But around that late season, they kind of bachelor back up. These bucks kind of bachelor back up. But you will kind of see one or two of them still doing rut behavior. They'll detach themselves from that bachelor group again, and then go do what he's got to do, but then come back. You know, rut tactics still work. Don't be afraid to still kind of rattle a little bit and still trying to call and use sense or whatever it may be that you plan on using. But I've seen, you know, a lot of rut activity still during late season. You know, I still had a couple of nice. I didn't shoot them, but I had a couple of nice little 6 or 8 points come in using estrus and still using grunt calls. You know, in like mid-December. You know, I think the the myth, so to say, is that it just kind of trickles off at like the end of November, but that's not the case. You know, I don't think it really trickles off until almost January, to be honest with you. You know, they're still wanting to breed. You know what I mean? Just because that peak time kind of slows down doesn't mean that those deer slow down. So just you're able to use those rut tactics. You know, use the food sources to your advantage with those rut tactics. You know, because they're still kind of territorial. You know, they're still kind of like, hey man, what are you doing over here? This is my food. I came back home. What are you doing here? You know, type of thing. So use those rut tactics, and I guarantee you can probably get something on the ground too. And the final thing that I want to say, guys, and I think a lot of people kind of don't really think outside the box, so to say, when I say this, and this is why the late season can be magical, is because there's not a lot of hunters in the woods. You know, what I said in the beginning of the video, usually me and dad are tagged out around this time. So we're done. You know, that late season can be so magical because the pressure on the woods is starting to lift. You know, they are starting to be able to get back into the everyday norm, so to say, for deer. You know, they're able to kind of walk a little bit more freely. They're able to daylight a little bit more, you know, because like I said, there's not a lot of pressure in the woods at this time. A lot of people don't like to hunt in the snow. You know, once the end of rifle season ends, you know, they're like, oh, didn't get anything, minus, you know, we're not even going to do it. You know, we got Christmas or something come on up, and they just kind of, you know, kind of prioritize that, which they should, but they kind of prioritize that, and deer season kind of gets put in the back burner now, you know. But those warriors like ourselves that are wanting to still hunt the late season, this is a perfect time, just because, like I said, the pressure is off. These deer are feeling a little bit more freely to go wherever they want to go. And it is a perfect time to put a nice slammer on the ground, or to, you know, to get a couple of nice does for the freezer, you know. So I think like a lot of people just don't understand that the late season can be so magical just because of that. You know, you might as well just cutting half your competition right off the bat because there's just snow on the ground. You know, it's just like with everything else. Like for some reason, I don't understand why a lot of people don't like to cross water, especially during bow season. You know, once you hit that water threshold and you cross that water, and you're able to cross that water, but once you cross that water, you're leaving 95% of your competition behind. And I feel like snow is that same type of concept. Once it starts snowing, people can't really endure the cold anymore, and they're just kind of like, you know. So 95% of your competition's at home. So it is a great time to get it done, you know. So, and there you go, guys. Some of the best tips and tactics that me and the pops use during late season to get it done. And if you can, guys, if you like what you're hearing and seeing, please subscribe to the channel. We really want you to be a part of it, but we can't do it without you. So if you can, just please subscribe to the channel. Also, one more thing, guys, go over to Facebook and give us a follow on Facebook at Michigan Boneheads Outdoors on Facebook. We are really, really popping over there as well. We really want you to follow the page over there, but like I said, we can't do it without you. So like always, guys, always keep bringing traditions back home, and we'll see you on the next one. Later, guys.